approach this topic, you might be wondering, why should we bother to examine the history of adult learning in Canada? Well, having an understanding of adult learning history will allow you to gain a deeper appreciation for the vision and foresight of past educational leaders, the educational traditions they established, and how Canadian values have been shaped. Studying past adult education programs can also help you to understand the forces that created past situations, how they were confronted, and how these same forces may manifest today. Another reason to obtain an overview of adult education over the years is to examine the roots of educational theory and practice. We will begin our exploration of the history of adult education in Canada by examining the time period from 1867 to 1914, where adult education was still largely a private effort, but steps were being taken for expansion into the public sector. This video will explore three main traditions within the history of adult education in Canada, which will include the establishment of mechanics institutes, women's institutes, and Frontier College. During this video, please reflect on the following analysis questions. Why is it important to examine the history of adult learning in Canada? What was the purpose of the Mechanics Institutes, and what factors led to their emergence? How did the Women's Institutes originate, and what was their main goal? What was the objective of Frontier College, and how did Alfred Fitzpatrick's philosophy of education influence its mission? Mechanics Institutes were first established in England during the 1820s. They began as voluntary associations of working men seeking self-improvement through education. These community-based institutes offered evening lectures, lending libraries, and periodical reading rooms. Some of the factors that contributed to the development of the movement included an increasing need for skilled workers who possessed at least an elementary understanding of mathematics and science to help them deal with the growing technology of machines, a general move toward the provision of popular education for all regardless of class, and the fight for democratic government and the need for a literate electorate. While schools had been founded for the purpose of promoting education of working-class children, there was no such institution capable of providing for the education of adults. The concept spread quickly elsewhere, including Canada, where the Montreal Mechanics Institute opened in 1828 and the York Mechanics Institute in 1830. Other institutes followed, especially in Ontario, but also in Nova Scotia and British Columbia. In 1895, Ontario included 311 institutes and over 30,000 members. Despite the name, the central figures who developed the Mechanics Institute in Canada were rarely manual workers. The institutes were often controlled by shopkeepers, doctors, ministers, and small manufacturers, who sought activities for themselves as well as the growing number of urban wage earners. The Mechanics Institutes intended to provide for the mutual improvement of mechanics and others who became members of the society in arts and sciences by the formation of a library of reference and circulation, by the delivery of lectures on scientific and mechanical subjects, and for conversation on subjects from which all discussion of political and religious matters is to be carefully excluded. Much debate concerned the reading rooms and libraries, which most members frequented for newspaper and popular fiction, rather than the works of science, art, and religion, promoted by institute directors. In Ontario, this debate was transferred to communities at large in 1895, when the provincial government used legislation to transform the institutes into public libraries. By the end of the 1800s, in Canada, the Mechanics Institutes were almost entirely gone. Most of the organizations turned their libraries over to the municipality, and in many cases, these helped to form the public library services in our communities today. The Women's Institute was founded in 1897 in Stoney Creek, Ontario, by Adelaide Hudless. Farmers' institutes had been in existence since the 1800s, with the purpose of aiding farmers in adopting more effective farming practices. Hudless recognized the need for a similar type of organization to assist women in improving their domestic practices. Thus, the Women's Institute was formed as a method of educating rural women with the purpose of improving their lives through studying domestic science. In an early speech, Hudless suggested that a better understanding of the economic and hygienic value of food and a more scientific care of children with a view to raising the general standard of life of farm people is needed. By 1903, there were 12 institutes with 1,500 active members. In 1904, the Ontario Department of Agriculture began funding 7 full-time staff to help promote and organize the institutes in the communities throughout the province. By 1908, the Ontario Women's Institute had grown to 24 institutes and 4,500 members. Not long after, women's institutes were formed in other provinces across Canada. In the early years, courses were held in cooking, sewing, home nutrition, childcare, and handicrafts. The format was a lecture with a demonstration, followed by a question period. In 1924, the first annual Women's Institute short course was held. The course was a month long, and branch members throughout Canada were asked to send a representative. These representatives returned to their respective communities to teach what they had learned. This turned out to be an effective format, which remains in use. Subjects expanded to include agricultural topics, such as dairying, beekeeping, and poultry raising, and later banking and business skills became part of the standard course. Another educational method used by the Women's Institutes was the publication of pamphlets. Study circles were also utilized as a method of education and socializing. The Women's Institute continues to serve the vision in mostly rural communities throughout Canada today. At the national level, this is the Canadian Congress for Learning Opportunities for Women, which advocates on the behalf of the special needs of women in accessing educational opportunities. At the international level, the Women's Institutes contributed to the development of the Associated Country Women of the World, which operates in 70 countries and has a membership of 9,365,000 member societies. The ACWW has consultative status with the United Nations and is affiliated with the United Nations organizations of FAO, UNICEF, UNESCO, and UNIFEM. In 1899, Frontier College was established by Alfred Fitzpatrick to extend learning opportunities to those adults, mostly men, who lived and worked in remote communities. Fitzpatrick encouraged university students to travel out to the frontier and work side by side with men working in the lumber, mining, and railroad camps. After the workday ended, the students would run classes that were held in tents in the camps. Since they would have spent many hours with the men during the workday, the students would be able to understand issues concerning the worker and could then develop classes based on these issues. Its unique laborer-teacher approach provided education to students and taught leadership skills to young university students. Frontier College gained national recognition after the First World War. Fitzpatrick received government funding in return for Canadianizing the post-war influx of immigrant laborers in the frontier. The college began hiring women in the 1920s to provide the same benefits to women laborers. After World War II, the college launched literacy programs for remote communities, ex-convicts, people with learning disabilities, and street people. It also began working with teens, children, and families in urban centers and established programs to promote reading among the young. Fitzpatrick believed that everyone has a right to an education and that educators must go to the student. According to Fitzpatrick, we must educate the whole family wherever the work is, wherever they earn their living. He also believed that education must be individualized and relevant to the student's life, and that instructors should have a close personal association with their students. Fitzpatrick advocated a balance between education and labor. He contended that laborers should have access to education while at work, and students should be required to participate in manual labor as part of their program requirements. Today, Frontier College continues to be based on Fitzpatrick's original idea of taking education wherever the student is. Programs are run still in labor camps as well as in schools and prisons. Frontier College is currently national in scope and has groups in almost every university in Canada. Students can still become involved in the summer laborer-teacher program, which now operates primarily in agricultural settings. Please reflect on the following synthesis questions. In what ways does an appreciation of the history of adult learning in Canada help you to understand adult learning today? Can you identify any similarities between the Mechanics Institutes and adult education opportunities that exist today? What impact does the Women's Institutes have on the education of women today? And how does Frontier College embody the philosophy of Alfred Fitzpatrick today?